There is an old legend that tells of a time when a young warrior, who many people know today as Miyamoto Musashi, was traveling throughout Japan, challenging many other prominent swordsmen to duels. Musashi has, of course, come to be remembered for the scores of contests he would win against a wide variety of opponents. Yet rare are the tales when he himself was bested. Some even say he never was. However, there is one such tale which occurred near Hitoyoshi on the island of Kyushu. It was here Musashi set forth to challenge someone who outwardly appeared as nothing more than an old man tending his garden. Upon issuing his request, the old man politely declined, and instead offered Musashi into his home to share some tea. Musashi, taken aback by this, reluctantly agreed, and the two went down to engage in pleasant conversation. It was only later, when Musashi was taking his leave, that this gentle elder took up a hatchet and struck at the young warrior. Being now in a confined space, Musashi had no ability to properly draw his own blade and respond. The old man had won. Whatever blow that was delivered by him was either insignificant or held back. Thus Musashi came to no real harm, and later thanked the elder for not only letting him go, but perhaps also dealing him a precious lesson that he would not soon forget. This old man was none other than Morume Kurando, originally a master of Shinkage-ryu, but who had also later gone on to found his own sword school, the prominent Taisha-ryu. Hyoho Taisha-ryu is a style of traditional Japanese Koryu martial art. It is a school of swordsmanship which has been passed down for generations, having been founded late during the waning years of Japan's warring states period, the Sengoku Jidai. Several years back, I was fortunate enough to be contacted by current practitioners of Taisha-ryu, with whom together we made a video detailing the sword school itself and a bit about the wider topic of Koryu in Japan. Well, I'm very happy to say that I was contacted by them again, this time to be sent a copy of their new book, Unravelling the Chords, the instructions of a master in the tradition of Taisha-ryu. It is a work that not only includes the first ever translation of the Taisha-ryu Kaichu written by Taisha-ryu master Nakano Jinuemon Shumei, a chief retainer of the Nabeshima clan, but also a further document written by the founder of the school itself, Morume Kurando. There is an absolute wealth of knowledge to be digested here, and I want to take the time today to share a bit of it with you. Not only what I myself found fascinating, but also what larger aspects I was able to take away from it. Yet, we need to get one thing out of the way first. I've commented before regarding the fact that I'm not currently a martial arts practitioner, and although since then I have gone ahead and purchased some quality swords with which I have used to practice my cutting skills, I have not put myself to follow any real style or form yet at this time. I feel this is important to mention because as this book's primary topic is one which does pertain to martial arts, there are aspects here I will not dive too much into, being that I lack the deeper understanding to properly articulate them to you. Yet, with that said, there is plenty more within this work that we can still get into, regarding other fascinating topics including the history of the school and anecdotes about the mindset of samurai, both at the end of the Sengoku Jidai and throughout the Edo period. Additionally, I feel this video would fit nicely into the new 2024 collaborative series I am doing in part with several other great Japanese history content creators. This is our third year doing a collaborative series, and the topic this time around has to do with weaponry. So I think this video, being that it pertains to swordsmanship, will make a fine addition. I will leave links down below to more videos from the other channels involved. But, getting back to unraveling the chords, let us start off with a brief history of Taisha-ryu itself, before discussing the figure who wrote this document and what it contains. And it should be noted that some of the information presented here may cross over with also what was covered in the original video I made about Taisha-ryu. The book, besides being a translation of original documents, also contains fantastic sections detailing the history of the school, from its founder to the figure who would come to write the primary text covered in it, the Taisha-ryu Kaichu. Now, Taisha-ryu itself was a style that began with Morume Kurando, who himself had formerly been a master of Shinkage-ryu. He was a samurai of Kyushu who had served the Sagara clan of Higo, yet had made frequent trips to Kyoto where he had studied under Kamiizumi Nobutsuna, who was the founder of Shinkage-ryu. By the mid-1500s, Kamiizumi and his swordsmanship had become a dominant force in the capital, so much so that it had even caught the attention of Shogun Ashikaga Yoshiteru. Kurando had become one of Kamiizumi's most diligent students, alongside another famous figure, Yagyu Sekishusai, father of Yagyu Munenori. Both men would become masters of their craft under Kamizumi's tutelage, and after his death, they would both go on to branch off and establish their own schools, with Kurando establishing his Taisha-ryu in the west, and in the east, Sekishusai and his descendants coming to form their own Yagyushin Kage-ryu, which would later come to be practiced by the Tokugawa shoguns. There is another interesting tale which would arise detailing a heated altercation between Kurando and Sekishusai's son, Munenori. It is said that both men had proclaimed themselves the foremost swordsmen under heaven, thus prompting Kurando to travel to Edo to challenge Munenori to a duel to truly decide who was the greatest. Munenori is said to have contemplated on whether or not to accept the challenge, eventually coming to the decision to forego the duel by stating that he believed both of them to be the foremost masters, and that only Kamizumi would have known who was truly greater. Legend says in that exact moment, the spirit of Kamizumi appeared before them and declared that losing even one of them would be too grave a price to pay, and that henceforth, Munenori shall be the foremost master in the east, and Kurando the foremost master in the west. They both agreed, and upon hearing this result, Tokugawa Ieyasu went on to say, "So, it is decided. The greatest swordsman of eastern Japan shall be Yagyu, and the greatest swordsman of western Japan shall be Marume." And with this, a seal was even crafted to commemorate the meeting. Kurando returned to Hitoyoshi in Kyushu, where he remained until his death, passing on the style of Taisha-ryu to his own disciples. He passed away in 1629, after having retired to a quiet life. Taisha-ryu had by now spread throughout Kyushu and other parts of Japan as well, but perhaps the most significant place where it took root was within Hizen province, home at this point in the Edo period to the Nabeshima clan. It is within the organization of the Nabeshima that we eventually come to see a figure by the name of Nakano Shumei, who lived from 1653 to 1730. Shumei would become a master within the Taisha-ryu school of swordsmanship, and even came to closely work alongside another prominent figure of the Nabeshima, Yamamoto Tsunetomo, who, as we know, would go on to write one of the most famous samurai documents of all time, the Hagakure. Tsunetomo himself would also even come to practice Taisha-ryu. By 1710, Shumei would complete the Taisha-ryu Kaichu, otherwise known as Unravelling the Cords, which itself is described as a document that explains the teachings, philosophical concepts, and spiritual guidance related to the traditions which were threatened by extinction during his own lifetime. Shumei wanted to preserve Taisha-ryu, and thus the Kaichu was his written way to etch its teachings into history forever, as he was concerned about its potential decline over time. And as we know, the school itself did not disappear, and it is thanks to masters like him that it was able to continue to be transmitted throughout the ages, up to this very day. So, what is all included in it? The text is broken down into 7 parts. There is the preface, the Book of the Rat, the Book of the Ox, the Book of the Tiger, 50 secret poems, 5 subjects of study, and 18 articles on the manner of transmission. The preface, Jo, obviously serves to attune the reader's mind to the information which is about to be presented. It is Shumei's way of explaining the purpose of the document while also detailing the contents of what is to come. The Book of the Rat, Ne no Kan, the first real section within the document, is one which details both philosophical and practical skills within Taisha-ryu. Concepts such as becoming aware of the area of combat, inspecting the condition of one's sword, understanding distance, and the movements of yin and yang. The Book of the Ox, Ushi no Kan, explores ideas related to larger scale strategy, while also expanding upon other concepts that were brought up in the prior section. It is here we find such topics as understanding both the inner and external enemy, attacking and awaiting, speech and conduct, and what the characteristics of a master and a disciple should be like. The third section, the Book of the Tiger, Tora no Kan, once again builds upon the information which came before, but also now focuses more on the concept of nature and the realities of life. Now we look to ideas concerning what is important during the day, what is the focus of true reality, being aware of life and death, and killing and letting live. After these 3 core chapters, we move on to a section devoted to 50 secret poems, Hikago Jushu. These work to summarize and complement the teachings of the prior sections, and for that reason may be hard to comprehend without first grasping the knowledge of what was presented there. Still, here are some of my favorites. Understand precisely focus as containing the cornerstone of action. Have no sympathy for such a person whose heart and mind is scattered. He who attains victory over the enemies that arise from the heart, by the heart, has no enemies without. Narrow paths and marshes, a dark night, a wide open space, all are sure to invite a sword coming for you. Following this, we move on to a section which details 5 subjects of study. Goka no Narai. These are form and color change, water wave, moonlight, letting go of tie, and cross-shaped character. It is also stated that although little information is presented regarding these concepts here in this section, further info about them is left to oral transmission, something you see periodically throughout the work. The final chapter is 18 articles on the manner of transmission, Denjutsu Juhakajo. Once again, these two are presented rather sparsely, and it is noted that there is oral transmission regarding each of them as well. From this, you can really tell that this document, although fascinating on its own, was never meant to be used by itself, and rather is best used with the guidance of a master who can further impart the understanding to the student. There is a lot more we could get into regarding the deeper nuances, but instead I will leave it here for those of you who really want to explore the book more on your own. Once again, being that I would not consider myself truly a martial arts practitioner, and in particular am not well versed on the teachings of Taisha-ryu, I can only take the wisdom presented here at its face value, while inferring with other elements. There are also plenty of parts that easily go right over my head, as concepts which I do not grasp at this time. Thus, being unprepared and underqualified to present such information here, I will choose not to, and instead simply say that I highly recommend this book to anyone who is interested in it. From other documents I have so far read which bear similarities to it, such famed works as the Book of 5 Rings and the Hagakure, Unraveling the Chords is certainly yet another fascinating look into the mindset of a samurai, those obviously who practice the tradition of Taisha-ryu, but still viewpoints which shed further light on the varied perspectives you can find within the writings of samurai and their approaches to philosophy and martial prowess. I want to thank my friends within Taisha-ryu who were kind enough to reach out to me to check out a copy of this fantastic book. I will leave a link below to where you can get yourself a copy. Like I said, I very much recommend it to anyone who is interested in traditional Japanese swordsmanship. And with that said, thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell if you enjoyed this video and found it to be most interesting.